Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Distributors Deliver podcast. My name is Eric Hoplin. I'm the CEO of NAW, and I'm delighted to have joining us today Mr. Joe Tracy, who is the chairman and CEO of the Dot Family Holding Company. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Eric. Glad to be here.
Well, I know you've been involved and your family's been involved with distribution for a long time. How many generations now is the Tracy family been involved?
Well, there's 4 generations, so I'm second generation. There's about out of 12 kids, there's 24 of us in the second generation, and there's 47 in the third, and there's 52 in the fourth, and we add them about every week.
Every week. And how does it work? How do you set up a structure where you can have so many people involved, or do they not all have roles at the company?
Well, they're involved. Depends on your definition of involved, but there's 12 of the third generation that are involved in the business. 11 out of 12 of the kids were involved at one time of the second generation. And so we encourage folks to come back to the business, but it's not a parking lot. You know, it's not just, we don't want you to just come to the business and not be passionate about it and not contribute consistent with what your skills and abilities are. But there's other ways that you can get involved, whether it be the Family Foundation or the Family Council or just helping out with the annual family meeting and engagement of the family. So we really work hard to keep the family engaged and to communicate with them and to make them feel like they're involved.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so I know the core of the family holding is Dot Foods, but
Right.
but also I know you've been expanding into other areas of distribution. What does the conglomeration look like these days?
So we, Dot Foods is by far the largest, and we had a lot of success and felt like we wanted to diversify probably 10 or 12 years ago. And as we studied that and said, two-step is kind of what the financial world calls what we do, or master distributor, if you will. And we said, let's take what we know and apply that to other industries and diversify, the family's wealth as well. And so we bought other platform companies. So we have a wire and cable business, Omni Wire and Cable, which is our largest business after Dot. And then Grabber Construction Products, which is dry wall fasteners. And then we have a pet food distribution business, and we have some partners in those business, but we own most of the business. And then we also have a reliable appliance parts business. So we've got really 4 other businesses outside of Dot. We also have a captive insurance company and got an investment committee for other investments. And so, family, a lot of people call us a family office, but if you know one family office, none of them are the same. I mean, they're all different. And so the definition of our family office is different than every other family office you would see.
I think for, probably through all of your companies and through most distributors, one of the keys is having great employees. Talk to us about the employees and the culture at the company and how do you make sure everyone's rowing together in the same direction?
Well, we were fortunate that when Mom and Dad started the business in 1960, one of the reasons why Dad started the business is he felt like he could treat employees better than he'd been treated in other businesses. And they really set the example for us in terms of the values which really lead to culture. And we've always felt like culture is a competitive advantage for us. So we foster it. Talent has always been one of our biggest barriers to growth. And culture can help us recruit and retain talent. And so we work really hard at arriving at what our values are that our senior leadership embraces. It's consistent with really how the business was built. And we've had a lot of success, and that's one of the reasons. And we also measure our managers. Are they not only how are they doing in terms of their skills and their job, but also are they taking a consistent approach with our culture? And it's important because if you don't, it's not debatable. It's a deal killer because Dad used to always say, take care of your people, they take care of the customer, we take care of the business. And so we can create an employee handbook and we can say these are our policies, but how to administer those policies, how to treat your people, how to take care of your people, culture is something that's hard to write down. And so when a new employee becomes a contributor, and then fortunately we can promote them to become a manager, then we put them through boot camp so that they can understand at a deeper level our values and our culture and what that means and how they need to approach their job and do their job every day consistent with what has really built the business.
That makes sense. And, operating a company is more than just your people, and certainly a core part of it. One of the things that I admire about DOT is the investment that you've made in the community, Mount Sterling. Talk to us a little bit about the philosophy around investing in the broader community.
Well, Mount Sterling, Illinois is a really small town, a couple thousand people, and we probably employ, almost 2,000 employees there. And people say, well, you employ the entire town. Well, we really don't. I mean, because we recruit from really almost a 100-mile radius of there when you think about drivers. But Mom and Dad started that business in that town in 1960. And, if you've never started a business, you don't know how difficult it is to really build that foundation and to really get going and not make money for a lot of years and not know whether or not you're going to have enough to make payroll and buy the next truck and the next truck or the next warehouse. And so they had a lot of appreciation for the local community. And so in the mid-'90s, when they were kind of winding down their careers, we'd always given some back to the community, but we wanted to create a family foundation that not only really did a lot to say thank you to the community that helped us get to the point where we were, but also engaged the family in a way that built that philanthropic spirit, because we felt so fortunate that we'd been given so much that we wanted to give back. And my sister Jean has led that foundation, and she just recently stepped back from chair, did a wonderful job. She created third-generation grant matching programs and really ways to build that philanthropic spirit, and it's worked really well. And so now the foundation, now they've got a staff of 10 full-time people. It's gone beyond West Central Illinois. And now there's other foundations. I have my own private foundation.
Okay.
John does as well, and Pat. And many of us have donor-advised funds. And so, we just feel really fortunate about where we're at, and an obligation and responsibility to get back. And Mom and Dad created that in all of it.
Absolutely. As you're giving back, you mentioned your own private foundation. What's the focus of it?
The focus of it is really the family unit. Number one, I think when you think about the root causes of a lot of issues in society today, you think about people who don't get education, they look at crime. It's really about there's too many single-parent families that are out there. They need a lot of support. And so there's that. There's leadership development, because I think, people matter, but leadership matters. And there's a difference between leaders and managers. And so I've done a lot to create incentive systems with local high schools, because teachers don't have an incentive to really up their game and to make sure that they take students from one spot in their life to a different spot and really contributors to the community and society as they leave high school and go on to college. And so I've done that at the high school level. I've done that at the university level as well, and then work hand in hand a little bit with the Tracy Family Foundation. So we use some of their research to look at other programs we can support.
Okay, great. Let's zoom out for a minute and talk more broadly about the distribution industry. And, there's a lot of complexity in the world, a lot of things coming at distributors. As you're looking at the landscape, what are some of the challenges that the DOT is navigating these days?
Well, I mean, most people would say, the advent of AI, but I would say it's a bigger bucket than that. It's really technology, it's automation. When you're running a fairly large business, or really any business, it's difficult to know if you're investing the right level in technology. It's difficult to know if you're placing the right bets. And they're certainly not all going to work out, and many of ours have not. Our largest investment in frozen automation has been a struggle. It's been difficult to get that up and running and working the way it should. We're investing in AI like everybody is, and to partner with the right people, the right technology companies, and to focus on the right stuff. That's difficult. And then talent, I would say, is number two. And these boxes don't move themselves, which is why you need automation, or you need talent. And not everybody wants to work in a freezer at nights on weekends anymore.
Right, yeah.
And so those jobs aren't very desirable, and driving trucks, you're away from your family and friends and on the road in a really not friendly environment. So that's not a desirable job. And we need a lot of drivers, and we need a lot of warehouse people in order to feed the world. And so we're certainly going to lean into automation, but it's going to be a long time before we We can say we don't need to grow the employee force every year, and those folks do an incredible job. You know, it's a very difficult job, and if you think about our drivers, you know, they're at the dock. They're the last line of defense, I like to say, because they catch all the errors and they catch the problems that hopefully they can insulate the customer from at their facility.
That's great. Now, as you look ahead, more 10 years into the future, I know the family, the generation that's coming next. What do you think are the big issues, you know, more broadly on the horizon that the family is going to be tackling in maybe the decade ahead?
For the Tracy family and the business?
Yeah, in the business, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going through transitions. So, John Tracy was the chairman for several years. I've taken over for him this past year. We'd recently put 2 third generation on the board as full-time members. We've had 3G observer seats for a while to get them educated on the governance process of our board, but we've never had 3G board members. So their first meeting was last fall. So that's a transition as I chair that board. We named our first non-family president a couple years ago. That's new. You know, it's never happened in the history of the business, and we feel good about the talent that we have in the business that can run the business and lead the business. Doesn't have to always be family, but it was different, and it's new, and so we're trying to navigate those challenges. And then the last thing I would say is that we've been very fortunate to have a track record of success, and you know, growing 10% when you're $1 billion is a little different than growing 10% when you're a $12 billion business. So continuing the track record of success is, you know, it's going to be more difficult in the future than it has been in the past. And it's a responsibility that we owe our shareholders that we take very seriously.
Right. You know, as folks are watching, probably a lot of family businesses in the distribution industry. Any advice you give to other family businesses? They're trying to replicate maybe a similar model or path of success as the Dot family?
Yeah, I would say a lot. You know, I've studied family businesses for a long time because part of that research was I'd rather learn from other people's mistakes, you know, versus make the mistakes ourselves. But, you know, private equity has made fortunes off of the backs of family businesses that aren't professionally run. And, you know, success is the enemy of progress. And so there's always an entrepreneur who started the business and it's done really well, and maybe the second or third or fourth generation has taken that business over, and they've had a lot of success, but they're just clinging to that success. You know, they don't want to change. They don't want to do anything different. They don't want to take risks. They've got a nice lifestyle, and they wake up one day and they're probably going to become irrelevant to the customer because they didn't reinvent themselves. They didn't change their business model. They didn't look for new ways to grow and services. They didn't have the hard discussions. They didn't make the tough decisions. Family business is hard. It's difficult, and it's a lot of fun when you can make it work, but you have to be willing to have those difficult conversations and talk about the stuff that isn't much fun. And hard decisions have to be made. And you have to strive to reinvent yourself and grow and stay relevant to your customer, because you'll wake up and the business model that worked maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe it's not as relevant today. And you weren't taking risks, you weren't placing bets, and you weren't really didn't have the aspirations to grow, and you were just okay with, I had another record year, $1 top line better than last year. And I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Let's talk for a minute about leadership. I meet lots of leaders throughout the course of my career, and you know, they all seem to have different strengths, and they emphasize different elements of leadership. As you think about your leadership style, what are the strengths that you lean into that you think are most important?
Well, I think that putting the right people in the right seat on the bus is one of my strengths. I think people assessment and people development is another one. You know, there's a few things I do well. There's a lot of things I don't do well. So I have to find people that do those things really well and complement my team. And I think I've done that over the years. Maybe not as well as some, but you know, when you when you do a good job of assessing, if you think about what we do in distribution, we track forklifts productivity, and we track tractors and trailer productivity and cases per hour and all this stuff. And then when you think about your people, and a lot of people say, well, people are your greatest asset. Well, what are you tracking on your people? Well, most of these businesses don't track much on their people. Most of these businesses, when they're interviewing them for a job, they don't test them for critical thinking, numerical reasoning. You don't know what you have there from a horsepower standpoint. We even have psychologists that interview a lot of these folks to make sure that they're really a good fit. And that also helps us from a development plan if we put them in that job and we know what we have. And then we also track, their annual reviews, and are they taking a job, doing or approaching their job consistent with our values and our culture. And so I think the development system for people that we have built has allowed us to, in the last 6 years, replace half of our senior leadership team, with people who came up through the organization. And that's just, that's powerful because, if I hire a really talented leader off the street and I plug them in to a really senior job, well, they might have had a lot of success in another organization, but we might do things a little bit different. And they don't have that deep knowledge. They don't have as much credibility. And we'd always prefer to promote from within, and that's about 2/3 of our promotions.
Really?
Are promoting from within. And we've tracked that for 20 years. And
probably leads to a lot of loyalty, by the way. People know that. They stick with this career with your company, that they got a chance to climb that ladder.
That's true, but for a long time, we didn't have a lot of movement at the senior leadership level.
Oh, sure.
So,
okay.
So they were getting a little bit anxious about that. But when I stepped out of the CEO role and Dick stepped in, and then George was promoted, it created a domino effect of a lot of leadership positions. And it's been good for the organization, and they're doing a really good job.
Oh, great. Well, let's end with this. I know that you and your family and other leaders in your company that have been involved with NAW for a very long time. Why? What do you get out of being involved with NAW? What's the value to your companies?
Well, I think NAW is in a unique position. We participate in other industry associations, and the unique thing about NAW is that it's not just food distribution. It's a lot of different verticals. You're going to find all kinds of distribution from around the country here, and you can learn something from anybody, number one. Number two is that the roundtable is a great example where you can sit in a room with folks that are similar size, that have similar businesses of same level of complexity, and you can share probably more candidly about what you're doing, what's worked, what hasn't worked. In the food distribution business, if you're in an association meeting, you're sitting around folks who are either suppliers or customers or competitors, and so it's a little more difficult to really sit down and have a candid conversation and share everything that has been going on, because you don't really want to share what could potentially hurt you. That's number one. Number two, I think that politics is a dirty game, and a lot of us aren't very good at it. And it's complicated, and it's difficult to know where to place your bets there. I think NAW does a really good job of that as well. And so we need an advocate. We need somebody that can influence policies and help us create a pro-business environment that will benefit all of us. And I think NAW does that pretty well.
Well, appreciate that. Well, Joe, you're very kind to take the time to join the show, and really glad that you were able to spend some time with us here on the podcast, Distributors Deliver.
Thank you, Eric.